Every time the economy goes bad, war starts.
Do you think it's going to happen again?
We're already in it. The bankers control the world. Like it or not, they control the world.
And they still do.
Yes, exactly. Because you would know that more than anybody.
And when you try to take them on, you might get a little bit of, you might get a bit of their territory. You might actually get a bit of their market share. But eventually, over time, they change the rules that we all abide by, but they change the rules against you. And eventually they now control the market again here in Australia. And by the way, the GFC was the greatest opportunity for them to take control back again.
They did.
And in Australia, COVID recently, or the so-called COVID or pandemic, whatever you want to call it, the flu, it gave, crazily enough, this is so crazy, you wouldn't think this would happen, but somehow our big banks in Australia took a greater control of the Australian lending market than they have had in the last 40 years because of COVID. Because the government gave them a whole lot of money on the premise that we need to give banks money to kickstart Australia again in the construction and lending environments. We live off construction in this country, housing construction, and we'll give it to you at 0.1% for 3 years fixed, 200 billion, and go lend it. And they lend it at 2%, record low rates. And that gave banks market share. They took control of the market again, which is quite interesting. Banks are smarter than everyone gives them credit for. They have smarter people than everyone gives them credit for. Your rich dad, poor dad, is it an education attempt by you to educate people? Stuff they don't learn at school?
Robert Kiyosaki suggests that every time the economy struggles, wars start, often to justify printing more money. He argues that banks and financial elites control the world, manipulating markets and economies to their advantage. He advises people to protect themselves by investing in assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin, rather than relying on traditional financial systems or expecting government support. Kiyosaki also warns that global economic instability could lead to more conflicts and authoritarianism, emphasizing the importance of financial education and independence.
My poor dad was head of education for the state of Hawaii. Very smart man, good man, big-hearted. But when I read Communist Manifesto in '65, I went, he's a Marxist. You know, abolition of private property, hated the rich, liked taxes, labor unions. And that's a free country. You can think what you want. And my rich dad was my best friend's father, capitalist. And so I had both capitalist education and a Marxist education. So I went to military school to learn all this, you know. I flew for the U.S. Marine Corps in Vietnam, and we killed a lot of communists out there. It was sad. So my concern is, as you know, America's going to war again. Because every time the economy goes bad, war starts. So that's what brought Hitler to power back in the early years, you know.
But do you think it's going to happen again?
We're already in it.
So can we explore it a bit? Because that's a bit fascinating to me. I mean, by the way, it's something that I'm concerned about. Because when things are going bad for a political movement, let's start a war.
Yes.
Putin's a good example.
And you can print more money. They're messing with power. And the banking powers, you know, the cartels. The Federal Reserve Bank is not an American bank. It's a cartel of the richest banks in the world. You don't play their game, they stomp on you. So that's my concern. You know, money is power, like it or not. Well, I think it was inevitable it was going to happen, that money would go crypto. So that's why the reason I have, I think I have 70 Bitcoin. I don't know how many I got.
But crypto is good. I'm talking about when banks won't let you deal in cash.
No, that's what I'm saying is
we should go crypto.
I'm getting off the banking system. Yep. So I own a lot of gold and silver, things like that. So I don't want anything they can print. So I own stocks, but at my company, I took them public. And my goal was to take companies public on New York, NASDAQ, and Toronto Stock Exchange. So I got New York, I got Toronto Stock Exchange. This summer I go public on NASDAQ. So I control the paper, but I'm an entrepreneur. You know, that's trained to do this stuff. Take control of your life. So I created the cash flow board game so people can teach people what schools will not teach you. And if you can control your money, you control your life. But years ago, I read a book by R. Buckminster Fuller. It was in '74. The book was called Grunch of Giants. Grunch stands for Gross Universal Cash Ice. Simply said, he was saying your wealth is stolen via your money. So the harder you work for money, more tax you pay, inflation. You put it in the bank, inflation steals it.
And fees.
Yeah, fees, all that. I'm not against it. I'm saying wake up. Well, it's very simple. You've got to choose your education. You know, if you listen to a financial planner like a super person, they can put you in stocks and bonds are crashing. You know, it used to be, and I don't know how it is Aussie here, but bonds were considered safe. Today, they're the most dangerous assets you can put your money into. And the S&P 500 is at all-time highs. And my generation, the boomer generation, is getting ready to retire. So you know this little cartoon character, Peanuts, with Lucy and Peanuts? And so Lucy would hold the football like this, and Charlie would run up and she'd pull the ball away. I think they're going to do that to the boomers. I wrote a book called Who Stole My Pension? And written by a forensic economist, because they're going to steal our pensions. They're already stealing it. So the American baby boom generation is a 50-50 chance won't retire. Their houses, you know, all they got is their house now, most of them. But homelessness is on the increase. You know, it's not bad here yet. But look at San Francisco, the most beautiful cities on earth, very, very much like Sydney. People are homeless all over the place. They can't afford a house. Well, there's no financial education in America, you know. You look at our leaders, you know, most of the people who run our Federal Reserve Bank and our government, they're PhDs, like my poor dad. Poor PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. Look at this guy Bernanke, you know, I mean, he's the Fed chairman. When it crashed, he dropped interest rates to zero and printed trillions. So today, America's in this huge bubble, this cash sitting everywhere. And the stock market's in a bubble, real estate's in a bubble, and all this. How much longer can it go? Today, America's the #1 debtor nation in the world. Every 90 days, they're printing another $1 trillion to cover the shortfall.
And they're issuing it as debt.
Yeah, they're printing more money because our taxes don't cover our expenses. They're printing $1 trillion every 90 days.
Wow.
And there's still no financial education. And then you look at China, Evergrande went down and Market Garden went down. China's going bankrupt, and so is Germany. So, you know, as I say, when America sneezes, Aussie gets pneumonia. And so we're the lucky country, but the world is caving in around you guys. So that's the spooky part. So that's why I say to everybody, buy some silver. You know, silver's about $20. It used to be 50 US. And then I like Bitcoin because Bitcoin gets stronger, dollar gets weaker. Well, Bitcoin is, you know, people's money. I say gold and silver are God's money because God put it here. But Bitcoin is people's money. That's the blockchain technology. And blockchain technology is basically a ledger, you know, a financial statement. And that's why I think Aussie will probably come up with his own central bank, digital.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid I don't have any proof of this, but they'll use central bank money to surveil you. That's what China does. So they know what you're spending your money on. If you're buying too many drugs, they'll come after you. You're doing this. So they're going to use our money as a surveillance tool. I'm afraid of that. So that's why I own tons of silver coins. So if push comes to a shove, I'll come pay you in silver. Well, I always say, you know, like, put yourself on your own gold standard or silver standard, educate yourself. We're going in for a rough ride. Let me say it again. China is in serious financial trouble. America is the biggest debtor nation in the world, printing $1 trillion every 90 days. Germany's in bankruptcy. So Aussie is the lucky country. So you're sheltered a bit. But as you know, China is your largest trading partner. And so it's imperative that every Aussie educate themselves to protect themselves. But if you're hoping the government's going to save you, then you're in trouble. But it's about money, as you know. You know, like I said, it's a very dangerous time on earth, so it's important that everybody take responsibility for yourselves financially, not expect the government to take care of you. So I go around saying, put yourself on your own gold standard, put yourself on your own silver standard. You know, save gold, silver, or Bitcoin, and protect yourself now with your brain, you know. But don't expect the government to take care of you. Aussie is the lucky country, but you sit behind these superpowers going to war. and spooky.
Robert Kiyosaki argues that when the economy gets bad, governments often start wars as an excuse to print more money. He explains that the U.S. is in a financial bubble, printing trillions of dollars regularly, which leads to inflation. Kiyosaki recommends buying assets like silver, gold, or Bitcoin to protect oneself, as he believes traditional financial systems are flawed. He also warns that digital currencies from central banks might be used to control and monitor people's spending. Additionally, Kiyosaki mentions that financial education is lacking, and he encourages individuals to take responsibility for their financial future rather than relying on the government.
Do you think war is inevitable?
Well, historically, yes. See, what brought Hitler to power was the Weimar Republic when World War I, and they made Germany pay reparations. So Germany went bankrupt. Hitler came to power. So every time there's chaos, a dictator comes to power. So that was fascist, that was Mussolini and Hitler. So these are not normal times. But I don't know. I mean, I would just prepare.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying, economically prepare. You're not sort of suggesting be doomsdayer and go and hunker down and build a vault underneath your house and fill it up with cans of baked beans and water, etc.
Just watch historically. I mean, you're in the banking business. 2019, the repo market collapsed. That's where the banks go to borrow money. It collapsed. Oh, and then suddenly COVID appeared. I went, oh, is this an accident?
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Interesting, because you watch the stuff. Is there a coincidence?
So just I might explain to our audience what the repo market means in terms of Australia, at least. It means if I'm a bank and I've got mortgage assets, I normally can go and if I got I'm lending, if I got a pool of mortgages which are my assets, and I've got liabilities where I've borrowed money from depositors on the other side if I'm a bank. Repo means that I can go to the government will buy my mortgages off me for the face value of the mortgage. So if I lend Robert $100,000 and there's 10,000 of Roberts in my pool, and I need some cash to lend more money to more Roberts, but I'm running out of cash because I'm a bank and because I'm not receiving the deposits, then I can go to the government, and the government runs a repo program where they will take my mortgages off me. In your case, they put him in Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. In the US, in Australia, we don't have that system, but they'll still buy them off us and they'll give us cash for it as the bank, and then we're going to lend some more money. And the repo market, you're saying, in 2019, prior to COVID,
went down.
Collapsed. Well, it didn't collapse, but yes, went down. It wasn't as much liquidity in the system, to liquidity being money available for the banking system.
Correct.
Because what you just said to me is really interesting, because when COVID hit in our country, March, within 4 months, our central bank here cut a check of $190 billion to our banking system. They said, banks, not non-banks like me, but to banks, here's $190 billion. We'll give you at 0.1%. Fixed for 3 years.
Yeah.
Go lend it.
Yeah.
And of course that created inflation and the bubble. The property market bubble. It just went off. And then, of course, last year, the government said, well, we want that repaid because the 3 years is up, 2023.
Yeah.
It does not exactly on that day, but from 2023 based on drawdown dates. And now the banks are raising money at 6%. So our interest rates are higher. So you know who's suffering? The consumer.
The average guy.
The guy borrowed he borrowed it at 2% from 1.99%. It's a record low fixed rate fixed for 3 years. All of a sudden, he's gone from fixed 1.99, now he's paying 7%. Our consumers are paying for this. The banks are making the same amount of profit as they've always made. They're just charging the borrower more.
Yep.
And the way forward was, our central bank said, well, inflation's really high. It's really bad. We don't like high inflation. So, and you consumers, you caused it. You caused high inflation. So, we're going to put interest rates up.
Yep.
And the bank said, we're not responsible. The Reserve Bank, the central banks put the interest rate. We just put the interest rate up as they go along. And now the consumer's bearing the risk of this. You know, it's really interesting. I remember Milton Friedman. Not many people, you would remember him, but not many people remember him. I remember watching him in the 90s, and it's up on YouTube these days, Friedman. And he says, consumers never create inflation. Governments do.
Correct. They print money.
They print money, and they make it available for the liquidity
for the rich.
System. Yeah. And the only people who make money out of that is the rich people at the end of the day. And
then if you get in trouble, they bail out the rich.
yeah.
And the Aussie bloke gets penalized.
Well, the rich people bail themselves out by influencing the government to do the bailout.
And if we don't educate ourselves, then shame on us. But schools will not do it because schools are complicit with the banks.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think
They're Marxist. I mean,
that's where they start from?
I read the Communist Manifesto in '65. I went to military school. I went, oh my God. They made two predictions. 1930, they were going to take over the school system, which they did, and then they would take our elections. As you know, the great battle on the planet Earth is Marxism versus capitalism. And in 1965, I was 17 years old. I went to school in New York. I went to military school. And my economics teacher had us read the Communist Manifesto by Marx. And that was pretty radical, to a school teaching Marxism. But rather than study Keynes and Malthus and all this, he had us read Marx. And I realized most school teachers, like my poor dad, are Marxists. Not bad people, don't get me wrong. It's like a religion, what religion? And as you know, what Marx said was the abolition of private property was the number one goal. And to this guy, Klaus Schwab, out of Austria, wherever he's at, he says, someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. So that's what's going on the planet. And a lot of people subscribe to that. So my poor dad was a Marxist. Number two was that workers of the world unite. My poor dad was head of the labor union, teachers union. Today, the biggest union in America, teachers unions. And that's why we have no financial education in our school. The third thing was that, a graduated income tax was essential for the spread of communism. And as you know, we're taxed to death now. And America was founded as a tax-free nation in 1773. We had the Boston Tea Party to kick the bloody English out.
Kiyosaki emphasizes the importance of financial education and self-reliance in these uncertain times. By understanding how the system works, taking control of your financial future, and considering investments like gold, silver, and cryptocurrency, you can better protect yourself from the volatility ahead. Remember, the key to navigating these turbulent times lies in education, preparation, and independence. Stay informed, take action, and secure your financial future. If you found this discussion valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with others who could benefit from these insights. Until next time, stay safe and stay financially savvy.